would like to introduce Ms. Kathyn Halling. She is a candidate for City Council Ward 3, and she is going to speak to you. Ward 3 runs along Kern River, as you can see, from east of Oildale out to the west into Rosedale along Kern River. And Kathyn is going to tell us about the situation, her qualifications, and then I think she's going to ask for your vote shamelessly. I'm going to shamelessly vote for her. So, there she is.
All right, that's me. Thank you so much for coming. I especially want to thank the over 25 of you that came out to a meeting that you may not have been familiar with, just to come support me on short notice. And I really appreciate your willingness to do that. And I appreciate your willingness to support me in an endeavor that is a little scary. So, let's talk about the city. And I also want to give a lot of you who don't know me a little bit of background on me so you know where I'm coming from. Could you smack it for me? This is my sweet family. We got the pointer? No, we'll leave it to you. I'll just swing it all over the place. Thank you though. This is my sweet family. We have a bundle of children between us, and we have raised our family here for the most part. I was raised here in Bakersfield. I graduated from North High School. I spent my 20s having kids and going to school. And when my youngest was ready to go into school, I went in too. And I started teaching at Highland High School. My husband and I both sacrificed some of our other dreams. I really thought I would be an engineer, and he thought he would be an exploratory geologist. But when you have a legit over a handful of children, perhaps that's not going to work out. We really didn't have the time. So we became teachers instead, and our schedules could meet up really nicely with the kids. So we're teaching, and then COVID hits, and we get a wild hair, and we say, you know what? Bakersfield, we gotta get out of here. And so we moved out to the Midwest, and it was an adventure to move during COVID and to not know anyone, but we moved specifically to Chicago. I know. Okay, forgive me. But I will tell you, I learned a lot of things. So when we left, my husband got a job teaching on the south side of Chicago, and I held off. I did some subbing here and there, but because we made certain choices with the vaccine, it was unclear when our kids were actually going to be able to be in school and when they were going to be home. And so when that lasted more than a year, I took a job as a staff accountant at a big hospitality company, working the books for 5 really stellar restaurants in downtown Chicago. And I have to tell you, it was a dream. It was a dream on those days when my kids were actually in school, that I could take the train down into Chicago and then I would walk from one restaurant to the other. But the best part of it was that I got to sit down with head chefs and general managers of restaurants and teach them how to look at their books and teach them how to look at their finances and determine how their COGS are going and determine where we can make cuts and where we can make adjustments. And then I also got to share their staff meal with them, which sometimes 2 in a day. It was pretty exciting. And so it was an absolute dream, and it was such a good learning experience that I realized I really like this better than teaching, I think. At least teaching other people's children. And so I went off on my own, and I started Got Your Numbers Bookkeeping. It's a good name, isn't it? Yeah, it's all Mark. Mark came up with the name. And just a shameless plug, I know that I'm at least in the top 3 for Best of Bakersfield. Fingers crossed that I get number 1. We'll find out in a couple weeks. Woo! Thank you. Thank you. So I started this company in Chicago. I still have a couple clients in Chicago. And we're starting to run into these moral issues with Mark teaching in the schools. And being asked to propagate certain ideas that we really couldn't morally sit with. And so we started looking for a way out. And within a couple months, the opportunity came. And we had the opportunity to move back to Bakersfield. Mark took over the family business, Halling Painting, that's been around for 40 plus years in town. And I could not have been more pleased. The place that I thought when we left, I'm not gonna die here. I know it's a black hole. Thank goodness it's a black hole. Because we came back so grateful for the oasis of Bakersfield that we did not even know we had.
Amen.
Woo! Yeah, amen. A place where I could send my kids to school and I wouldn't get a social contract sent home telling me how I needed to treat my fellow citizens out in neighborhoods without being reported to the school for re-education. It's another story, but it's absolutely real and it will blow your socks off. I could not believe the extent to which Chicago public schools would go to. So, we come back to town and now we're small business owners. And if you're a small business owner, every dollar is so important, especially if you're a small business owner in California, because having employees here is ridiculously expensive. And so we really started being choosy with where we spent our money. And we started making sure that almost everything was spent locally. I am almost 4 years sober from Target. So I'm very excited about that, thank you. Every so often I look at Mark and I say, please let me go back. But I don't need to go there, it's fine. So all of our groceries we buy locally now. Our meat we go get from the fair. We've changed all of our habits, but when you do that, you start to then wonder, and Harvest Fresh, I'll give a plug back there for Harvest Fresh, which is a great local market over on 18th. But you start to become more interested in what's going on in your local politics. And so I went to State of the City last year, and the mayor speaks, the city manager speaks, and I was appalled with what I saw. Because the thing that everyone was so excited about was all the money that we're putting into these new beds for the homeless, all these new projects we're building. And I thought, I'm sure a lot of that is grant funded. I'm sure people have gone out and gotten that. But I'm also hearing about how broke we are. And I'm coming back to town. Now, homelessness was an issue, certainly, when we left. But when we got back to town, there was a stark increase. And we came from, and this will shock you, Chicago, where my kids could go and ride their bikes to the park, blocks away to their friends' houses, and I didn't even think about it. They didn't have cell phones, they're just little kids, and there was not a concern. And I get back to town and they're older, and I say that you can't. Because we have a dozen, for lack of a better word, tweakers running around our neighborhood. I live just on the north side of 24th Street, and I hesitate to let my 15-year-old walk the 3 blocks to her best friend's house. So I'm really interested in this homelessness situation, and I think, we're pouring money into this. I've talked to the BPD Association. They're telling me, we're supposed to be getting this money from Measure In, but now the city is telling us we have to make some pretty stark cuts over the next 5 years. It'll start this year. And we're losing officers left and right because our pay is not competitive. They're actually traveling to Lamont. In January, I think they lost 8 seasoned officers. And so my first question becomes, I know we're spending all this money on homelessness, and of course it's an issue that needs to be dealt with, but if you'll switch over. My question is, what is actually the role of city government? What is our job? And I'm talking to others, I don't know everything, I'm doing some research, but I keep coming back to the same 3 things. That we are in charge of safety and emergency services, infrastructure and utilities, and administration and financial management. It's these 3 things. except that if you're not handling your finances correctly, these other two things just go away. And so, I'm a numbers person. I'm used to looking at financial statements. Can you switch us over? So I go to the city website. I say, show me where you're at. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But I don't know, you guys probably can't see this. This was taken just this week. The last financial statement that was published is the fiscal year 22-23. Yeah, the date it was published is December of 2024. Now usually these statements are published within 6 months of a period closing. Well, that's a red flag. I'm hearing that we're in financial trouble, but how on earth could we tell what kind of financial trouble we're in if we don't see any financial statements? This is concerning. So we are behind 23-24, not published. 24-25, not published. We are almost going to end the 25-26, and we still don't have these published. Okay, trying to give the benefit of the doubt, but it's getting real hard now. So I say, well, why don't we look back at what the city is doing? What's the track record? Well, everyone got the next wake-up call. You wanna, pass it. Did everyone get that?
Yeah. It's a bunch of.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. If you haven't received this in the mail, this is as close as I've gotten to it. It's a picture from a friend. I still have not received my notice in the mail. The city actually knows they have issues with that, so they've made an extra forum date, but I still haven't received it. So I'm sure everyone had the wake-up call of the city. Of the sewer. It was certainly a wake-up call to me. And I'm looking at what has the city done. Is this something that we weren't expecting? No. We absolutely knew that the sewer needed to be rehabilitated. It's right on schedule. But the city chose to run down our reserves to cover operating costs rather than raising rates even a little bit. And now they no longer have bonding power in order to cover this repair. But they say, don't worry. We'll go ahead and front load the cost for this in the next 5 years, and y'all can pay for it. And if you don't, we'll put a lien on your property. I know, it's insane.
Court time.
So here I am thinking, okay, I see what happened with Measure N. We passed it. We wanted 100 new police officers. The city then used Measure N, which was far more lucrative than we anticipated, to subsidize the general fund. Okay, so we see maybe what the tendency is with cash. And now we're going to go ahead and hand them a boatload of cash and say, please use this wisely. That makes me a little nervous when they say that we're out of cash, but they will fund things like political organizations, like Dolores Huerta. They will fund all these different endeavors while not meeting what a city is actually responsible for. And I see that we've made homelessness a sacred topic. You can't say hardly anything about it. But it's not the homeless that pay for our city to actually exist. And so my kids may not be able to run their bikes around the neighborhood, but maybe they should at least be able to run their bikes around the parks. They can't run their bikes around the parks because that's where the homeless live. That's where the kids go to do drugs. So I'm stuck. I'm stuck where my kids can't go do their thing. I pay my taxes. I have a small business here. We employ people here, but we're not being protected. And so please do not take this as though I do not care about the homeless. I absolutely care, but I do not want to be coerced into funding. For example, a month ago, Open Doors said that we fund 94% of their yearly operating budget. To me, and these are taxes that we have to pay, but this is where the city has chosen to spend their money before they're doing the 3 pillars of what they're really most responsible for. And we get to feel it here with the sewer. And so, while I will admit that I've never run the finances of a city, certainly, I do think that one thing I can absolutely do, and one thing that is absolutely loving, is to shed light where there is none, to ask questions when something seems a little hazy. And there have been a couple city council meetings recently where some of our city councilors have absolutely needed backup and they have had none. There has been no one to ask the question, if we buy the Bank of America building, how much will it cost us to go move into that Bank of America building? How much will it cost us for the new signage? And then there's an inconsistent narrative about how much we're actually saving, and no one can see any of the information. This has to stop. As much as I want homelessness to be taken care of, we have to get our finances in order. If you do not put your oxygen mask on, you cannot help anyone. Woo. So while I'm a nobody, no one knows my name.
You're not nobody.
Well, no one in town knows me. I hope that you will help spread my name, because I truly believe that right now I am the best candidate. I have no passion project other than us using our money wisely and protecting the dollars that we spend and protecting the small businesses that keep our city going. We should be a refuge for small businesses in a state like California.
Yep.
I hope that you will back me, but I will say, if a better candidate comes along, we should all back them. But until then, I am actually the best candidate. I have no desire to climb. I have no passion project to put in my back pocket for when I ascend to the state. I really hope that you will help me just do the hard work of getting Bakersfield back on budget, because right now we want to spend so much money and it's crazy and it's driving me crazy. So I hope I can count on you to walk with me, to tell your neighbors about me, and to have your support. Yeah. Woo!